Because the very first question, what causes resentment, which led us to the title, or the phrase, the silent war, you know, is that resentment itself is a feeling that builds inside of us, and it is often not expressed, hence silence. But it's a war because it builds up negative emotions, especially rage, and we'll be going into that in a little more detail. So, yes, what causes resentment? Why do we sometimes have this feeling inside of us? And it's a feeling that also grows out of a perception, thinking that you are being unfairly treated. You see, that's why I said it can even happen between siblings, where you feel, your parents, or maybe even one parent favors the other sibling. Maybe some of you are thinking back to your childhood, or even now that you're grown up. You may still have those feelings against your sibling, but do they even know? Hence, the silent war. So, what causes resentment? It's a feeling that you are being taken for granted. There are several things, and we'll run through a few of them. One of them is that you feel you are being taken for granted. There's a lack of appreciation for your contribution, whether it's to a household or even to the person. I'm sure you've heard somebody say, after all I've done for him, I've sacrificed for her, and look at how she treats me. Or sometimes it's simply not that they're treating you badly, but they've never acknowledged it. How does that make you feel inside? And how many of us feeling that way have actually expressed it? You take me for granted. Sometimes this, feeling of being taken for granted is made even worse when criticism of your efforts takes place. Here you've helped the person, you've really given of your heart, and even what you did is then criticized. First, you don't get acknowledgement for it, no thanks, and then you are criticized also. Your efforts are criticized. And quite often, resentment builds because we don't have an opportunity to be able to express how we feel. Sometimes we do. We'll get to that too. But sometimes we feel powerless in expressing how we actually feel. And that can be between a parent and a child. So we who are parents, we need to watch out too, so we don't build resentment in our children. Second, we can also develop resentment because our expectations have not been met. Unmet expectations are a major driver of resentment. Why? Because when somebody promises to do something, or when you expect something from the person and it doesn't come, it leaves you with a feeling of emptiness sometimes. And you're wondering, why isn't that person doing it? Is it because they don't care? So it starts that way. You're wondering, is it because they don't care? And, if you are in love with this person, you say, no, I don't think, maybe he forgot, maybe she didn't understand.
Right.
We tend to catch the person some slack. We tend to make excuses for the person, you see. And then how about unresolved conflicts? That's another thing that can cause people to develop resentment. Resentment is not something you press a button and it builds up. It builds up. So unresolved conflicts, how do these also cause people to develop resentment? Well, when a conflict happens, when you're unhappy about something, You mentioned to your friend, sibling, spouse. How do they treat it? How do they handle it? You know, when you are ignored or when whatever you bring up is ignored. Or sometimes it's just left hanging. You begin talking about it, something comes up, yes? Maybe even a phone call comes up. After the phone call, everything changes. How does that leave you feeling? That you brought up something important to you and it wasn't well handled. Sometimes the unresolved conflicts derive from one person refusing to work together to resolve the issue. The issue has been brought up, but we are here. Or, this is no big deal. And that hurts, doesn't it? How about lack of attention? And sometimes it's lack of attention to you. And that is made even more serious when others are getting the attention. He won't spend time with her, but he spends time with other females also. Oh, sometimes it's not on other females. He spends time with the guys and has no time for her. Well, she's doing the same. Girls, but no time for him, And how does he begin to feel? He begins to resent those people. And the one who goes with them, you. You see. So those times when you are supposed to be having fun with your crew, resentment is building up in your absence. And it could even be sometimes extended to children. When one spouse feels that the other one is giving all the attention to their children. That's why some people even get annoyed with babies. Because before the baby, it was just us. Now the baby is come, and one person is missing in action. Or one person feels ignored. And it can lead to a feeling of loneliness. Even though we're together, one person is feeling lonely. Sometimes it can be a partner's focus on career, work, sometimes even church or social activities. All manner of activities take that person's time, could be also attention, and the spouse is pushed lower and lower down the priority line. And so maybe you even plan to take a weekend away somewhere. And then a call comes, oh, I have to go into work. Oh, no, not again. Or maybe pastor calls. Or maybe some extended family member or a friend needs help to move. Suddenly, your weekend away is shelved. You're not going to be smiling and thinking, what a wonderful friend my spouse has. No. Resentment begins to build in you. It's that feeling that you are not being fairly treated. This is compounded, as we say, when we see the spouse including other people and leaving you out. We've also noticed that when people don't have what they feel is a sacrifice acknowledged, it makes them feel, wow, sometimes even used. He came to me needing this, and I did. Actually, it was even some, maybe it's money, maybe it's time, maybe it's some talent you have that you placed at their disposal, and it wasn't acknowledged. You're not going to be having warm feelings about the person, however close they are to you. And sometimes between spouses, it may be a feeling that one person has, that they're carrying too much of the load. The load can be household chores, the load can be finance, the load can be taking care of the kids. The load can sometimes be, why am I the only one who cleans the house? When people begin to ask that question, When you begin to ask such questions in your mind, something is growing deeper. When you begin to ask, why am I the only one who's always doing the cleaning? Why am I the only one who's always doing? Why do I have to, work so hard? And then there are those who begin to resent what the partner, spouse, friends might have, because they are on the receiving end of whether sometimes it's frustration they have in their work. So the person comes home, they're grumpy, they're not relating well, for example, with the people around them. What begins to happen? You don't even like what they do. And the moment they're talking about that job, you're thinking, oh God, you don't even want to hear about it. When you find yourself going through those thoughts and feelings, resentment is building. And then, overall, we can see resentment builds when there is a lack of appreciation for the things we do. It can be lots of things, it can be just one thing. So what do all these things lead to? What do all these things lead to? Or maybe before that, let's see, how does resentment actually develop? Since we said it builds up, because one of the first things is that resentment takes time. You may be annoyed the first time, but if it happens 2, 3, 4 times, we begin to build resentment. Before you realize it, you're angry or hatred of that, whatever it is that causes you to feel that way. So resentment often starts with feelings of doubt. Did he really forget? Or maybe she did. Oh well, she's been very busy lately. That she has got so much on her plate. Things like that. So it starts with feelings of doubt. Usually accompanied by giving the other person the benefit of the doubt. No, I've known him. No. No, this friend of mine, no, I don't believe it's deliberate. No. Things happen. I don't think you will deliberately do such a thing. But then, after we've reasoned away the possibility that this could even be intentional or it could be continuing, resentment increases when the hurtful behavior is repeated over and over. And then it's made worse when attempts to discuss or request changes are brushed off or ignored. In fact, sometimes the request is turned back on you that, oh, you complain too much. Oh, you don't even appreciate the work it's because of you I have to do. If I didn't do this work, we wouldn't have all these good things. Wow. Okay, then take the good things. I married you. Maybe somebody has had this kind of exchange before. That's resentment at work. The ground in our hearts and minds are areas, fertile fields for growth of negative emotions when resentment begins to build. Because we try explaining away, and after a while, it's not happening. It can even be going to social events when one partner is always a no-show and the other one has to lie. Yes, lie for them. So he doesn't feel, oh, she didn't, oh, she had to work. But it's not true. You do that a few times. Now when the person doesn't want to go, like somebody said, I'm going to stop lying for you. I'll tell them you didn't want to come. That's not resentment. That's speaking the truth. So what are the consequences? When there's resentment, what does it lead to? What happens when resentment builds up it often expresses itself in negative emotion. So you can think of all kinds of things beginning to happen. Sometimes there's a constant anger. You see, it's not expressed yet, but it's seething just below the surface. So, as my wife and I were saying today, it can be one person arrives home, says, "Hello, sweetheart," and you're greeted with what? And you're wondering, "Oh, I just said hello," you know. And you have to listen for the response. Even when you explain, "Oh, I just said hello," you don't get the, "Oh, sorry, I thought," no. But all you get is, "Oh, that's it." There's no apology for the what that came, you know. And how does that make you feel? That person might have some ill feeling, you know. When we feel resentment, we don't think positively about the relationship. In fact, we are less hopeful about the future of the relationship. And in a short while, yes, in a short while, we begin to question why we are part of this relationship. It can be a group of friends. It can be spouses. As I've said, it can be siblings. Why do I even have to call him to hear him tell me these things? So you stop calling. Why should I talk to her if this is how he's going to talk to me? You stop calling. Resentment has taken over your relationship. For some people, resentment shows in an erosion of trust. And you see here again, resentment is often not expressed verbally, but it's expressed in actions or inaction. So an erosion of trust, especially if there's been some betrayal. You know, the person has had an affair, maybe not even, as somebody said, not a full-blown affair. I was just talking to this person, and now my wife is angry, or my husband is behaving as if something has happened between us. Something did happen. You were talking to somebody else. You know, yes, that's why. But you see, when there is erosion of trust, it's not easy to relate the same way. And one area where we can erode trust without realizing is when we use information our spouse or a friend has shared against that person. So my wife tells me something, you know, in confidence. She trusts me. I'm a husband. I'll keep it. Well, another time we may be having an exchange of words, and guess what? I tell her, "Oh yeah, you know, it's because of this. That's why such and such happened to you." Oh my goodness! What she shared with me, something really deep, and perhaps that had even been hurtful to her. Now what do I do? As the saying goes, I take it and throw back in her face like mud. Who wants to have mud thrown in their faces? And if mud is thrown in your face, there's no way you're going to smile, even if you were playing a game with mud. Resentment can also lead to a weakening of communication between people. And as I said, we're looking at all different types of relationships, sibling, spouse, co-workers, you know, friends, all of that. Resentment can lead to a weakening of communication, eventually leading to a cut-off or sometimes a breakdown. So you're reduced to one sentence, you know, "I'm leaving for work." "Oh, I'm back." "I see." You know, or sometimes you even hear a grunt. That's it. You know, communication begins to break down. Then resentment can also lead to one, sometimes both, being limited or an absence of physical intimacy. "Don't touch me," you know, "leave me alone," or Sometimes we don't even say, leave me alone. Oh, I want to be alone. So, don't come disturb me. You know.
No, Master, go ahead quickly. If it's Sunday, we have to prepare for Monday.
I don't want to be close to you. For some people, it might be a withdrawing from the other person, not wanting to engage. So, we used to chat a lot, now we don't chat. Yeah, you need to ask yourself, did I do something? What is it? Or maybe I didn't do something that has led to that. And then, because we're human, because we're made for relationships, for some people, their eyes and their minds begin to wander. Maybe somebody else will understand me better. Maybe somebody else will appreciate me better. Maybe somebody else cares for me better. And in today's cyber world, you can hide in cyberspace, looking for someone else who will make us feel better and take away the pain, the inner pain that resentment causes. Because that's why it becomes a silent war. We had someone who was speaking, and he said, some people are a walking civil war. He went on to explain, there is so much rage built up in them against someone or some people. Sometimes you say a nice word to them and they think you insulted them. Because the whole mind, they're wound up, ready to strike. Nobody knows that that's what's going on inside of them. That's what resentment causes us to do. But one of the things you find in the literature is that it says that there is a built-up rage. You know, rage is anger just waiting to explode. That's why you might make what for you was an innocent remark, and as somebody said, the dam breaks. No, not the dam of tears, but it's the dam of emotion. Sometimes there's verbal diarrhea following it. The words don't stop flowing. And you begin to think, what did I say?
Can you mute your background a bit?
Yeah. Finally, you broke. And for others, not only do their eyes and minds begin to wander, but they also begin actively to look for a way out of the relationship. And that's bad. Because you see, as we defined it, resentment is all happening inside. And you may be right next to the person, but you may not know that they built up resentment against you. That's why we can go to events and smile and chat with people and all that. And we come to sit back in the car and it's dead silence all the way back home. Something has built up. Resentment has taken over the relationship. And then, because we withdraw from each other, what do? I'll do my own thing. I'll build my own, circle of friends, activities, everything. And what happens for couples? They begin to drift apart. Sometimes one person doesn't even realize. But sometimes both do. That's where the problem becomes even more serious. So as always, we ask the question, what can we do? You've heard a lot about all these, and I'm sure if you have been in a friendship, a relationship, you've had interactions with people on a close level, you must at some point have felt resentment. Because it starts with a feeling, a perception that you have been unfairly treated. That's all. That's all. And whether you've had the opportunity to speak about it or not, it may also be there. So what can we do? The first thing, for the person feeling the resentment, is to acknowledge that something is not right. Because if you do not admit it to yourself, it's only going to keep more inside of you. One of the consequences we didn't mention is actually two, very critical. So let me bring it up here. When we don't acknowledge that
maybe
we are having we do have some resentment in us, it can even lead to issues, we call them the psychosomatic diseases, things like high blood pressure. You see the person and your heart begins already to beat faster. You don't even want to see them. Why? When there's an event is coming up, they'll be there. You're already deciding maybe I shouldn't go. No, you're finding some reason not to go. So high blood pressure can be one. For some people they even suffer migraine. We've heard medical people talk about enlarged hearts. People which might lead to congestive heart failure. Yes, that happens also. For some, they then begin to have mental issues. There's a whole range of things, and we should have a session on that in the not too distant future to look at some of these things that for some of us we were conditioned not even to express how we feel. Maybe growing up, as a child you wanted to say, my sister, hey, keep quiet, she's your older sister, And so,
yeah, and I think
after a while,
they can send it privately to him as well.
He's the favorite one.
Will always feel concerned.
At that early age, you may have begun to develop resentment for them. So now you're grown up. Now you're making more money than he's making, and she needs help. Well, it's your turn. You will not let them have it. You need help as much as they do. So the mental issues, that need to be taken care of. And then sometimes there's spiritual issues also. Spiritual issues as to regarding your own walk with God. Jesus said, if we don't forgive those who sin against us, how will our Heavenly Father forgive us our own sins? So we may be carrying spiritual loads because we're harboring resentment.
Yes, I remember very well. I think that I was thinking after
some other Bible verses that might even help us understand this. But what else? Do you have some verses from the Bible? Let's see. Hebrews 12, verse 15 says something also. You have bitterness. Bitterness can lead, it's like poison in your heart or your mind. Everything, all the thoughts you think about that person are negative. Even when people are saying nice things about that person, you will find something negative. There's bitterness.
Sure.
Because maybe you were overlooked for them. You see. So Hebrews 12, verse 16, it says something about that.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16. Looking carefully lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled.
That's right. Why don't you read from the New Living Translation? Let's see how it puts it.
New Living Translation, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15. Look after each other, so that none of you fail to receive the grace of God. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness.
No, send me my own, make I pay my credit card.
Right. No poisonous root of bitterness. It's like poison within you. So for us who feel resentment,
remember I pay another 400 buy a new ticket too.
You go to the doctor, you have to let the doctor know what is really happening. You don't go if your leg is hurt to get head medicine, and you come back home with your leg still hurting. So we need to be real with ourselves. Some of us were taught to hide our feelings. Maybe it's about time you got liberated. Actually, it's time you were liberated. Today might be that day for you. The second thing is that when we are in a friendship, relationship, marriage with someone, we need to be honest with each other. We need to be honest with each other. And especially if you are unsure of how your spouse, if you're married, will take it, then seek third party help, whether from elders or pastors, people you respect, so that maybe even a therapist or we actually think it's better to start with people who know you and you respect, and then you can go to a therapist if you still things aren't improving, because there might be more deep-seated things at that point. You see, when other people come in to help you, people you respect and listen to, and you still feel this thing is not going away, then seek professional help, as we will say. A therapist, a counselor who can work with you to dig deeper. Sometimes it might be a few questions they ask, and you begin to understand where this thing also started. It's really important for us to do that. These deep-seated feelings often are not surfaced when we just have a sit down to talk about the issue. That's why sometimes we need professional help, so that the key issue, sometimes the trigger point, can then be identified and, yes, treated. Sometimes they have to be treated. And we need to do that. And part of being honest with each other will say you need to declare a ceasefire. Yes, it's a silent war. It is war because it's damaging a lot of things. The relationship is being damaged. You internally are being damaged, and you need to declare a ceasefire. Why is this important? Because if we continue to attack each other, we will end up destroying each other. That's why two people so much in love, in a few years, both of them can be reduced to emotional wrecks because they've been attacking each other due to the silent war within. Let's look at another scripture that can help us in this regard, declaring the ceasefire. Let's see, Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 and 32. I think that can also be helpful. Ephesians 4, 31 and 32. Attacking each other.
Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 and 32. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all kinds of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you. Amen.
Amen. The standard is as Christ has forgiven us. But you can see all the negative stuff that the Apostle Paul listed. Bitterness comes up again, rage, anger, harsh words. They're sounding familiar? Slander. The bad things we say. Sometimes not just say, but write. Post on Facebook like you read it somewhere, but really you are dissing somebody else, right? And instead, we're to replace that with kindness to each other. It's not one way. Both of us. Tender-hearted. From warring against each other, to being tender-hearted. See why sometimes we need help? Because it's not throwing a switch. Especially years of abuse, years of neglect, years of being ignored. You don't just flip a switch to get them all away. It needs work. and then forgiving one another. Sometimes the act of forgiveness is only a step, one step. And I think we've discussed it here a number of times, but let me mention again. There's a lot of research showing that forgiveness actually benefits the forgiver more than the one who is forgiven. So if resentment has built up in you, forgiving the other person actually might begin to heal you faster than you think. So that's another thing we need also to do. It's also important to review the relationship after a while. Give yourselves a month, 3 months, and review. How are we doing? If you're married, it's even more important that you do it because you are in it together, long term. So, rather than letting your eyes and minds wander, why don't you set yourself, all right, it's good we talked about it. I understand you better. Well, I really didn't know. No, took it the wrong way. Okay, so now you're going to be releasing the resentment, but we stay on guard, right? So why don't we revisit this a month's time, 2 months' time, 3 months' time? Let's see how we're doing. We service our cars, don't we? And as we ask the couple, why do you service your car? They both commute using the highway. And they said, so our cars don't break down. And I said, particularly on the highway. I said, yes. So think of the highway of your marriage, the highway of your friendship. Would you like it to break down on that highway? And leave you feeling isolated on the highway of life? So let's build a review into all of this. Because even if you see a therapist or a counselor, yes, they'll tell you, let's circle back in such and such a time. Let's see how you're doing. Why is that important? Because if you have less resentment, yes, you're on the path. If your level is about the same, then maybe there is something more than just, oh, he did this or she didn't do that. Maybe there might be something more. That's why it's important. You see, it's very easy to say someone caused how I feel. But sometimes, as I said, these things may have built up in us way, way, way much earlier in our lives. Maybe in high school, maybe in college, maybe when you started working, long before you entered into a relationship. But now the person with whom you are in the relationship is suffering, as we say, for the sins of other people. Just maybe, someone listening might be a walking civil war. And today, you might be able to declare a ceasefire on yourself and all the people with whom you interact. Because as it is said, well, if we allow the devil a foothold, he will take it. And so Ephesians 4:26 and 27 tell us, be angry, but don't sin. That means you have to get rid of the anger, because if you keep that anger, it will lead you to do something sinful. You know. Ephesians 4:26 and 27. Yes.
Ephesians 4:26 and 27. And don't sin by letting anger control you. This is from the New Living Translation. Don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry. For anger gives a foothold to the devil.
There you go. So, if anger has built up in you, you might just be giving the devil a foothold. And a foothold means you've given the devil a place to be able to get into the rest of your relationship. I don't think you want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. And we also need to stress, just before we conclude, that this is a shared responsibility. getting rid of resentment is a shared responsibility. The one who feels the resentment, as well as the one who may have been the source. So sometimes it may be those of us close to the person who feels the resentment. We may not be the reason for the resentment, but we can be a help to that person. Because let's face it, friends, sometimes we also fan the flames of war in the person. Because they might say something to us, and what is our response to it? Oh, yeah, that's how these men these days, that's how they are. How helpful a friend are you being? People are wicked. People are wicked, Oh, me too. This is what happened to me. Are you really helping the person? Or are you stoking more the silent war with them? And there is something also important for all of us. Let's hear what from the letter of James, chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. James chapter 1, 19 and 20. These are principles from the Bible, but they're principles for everyday life also, because it means we should give a listening ear. We should be ready to listen, not being so much in our own world that we ignore or have little time for our partners, our friends, siblings, and yet a spouse. So James chapter 1.
James chapter 1, verses 19 and 20 from the New Living Translation. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires.
Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. If you want another way, you want to remove God from it, yes, we can even say it. Your anger will not necessarily produce the right behavior in your partner or spouse. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So, yes, you can be angry all you want, but it may not necessarily bring out the right kind of behavior. So it leads us to our last point. We need to agree on and cultivate the right behavior that will make for a healthy relationship. We can't simply continue to do things, quote unquote, as it was in the beginning. We do need to respond to the people who make us realize or help us to realize that we may be doing something that is rubbing them the wrong way, that is making them feel unfairly treated. As we read in James, be quick to hear, slow to anger, and slow to speak. Very important. For some of us, the moment you are told this, oh, you complain too much, quick to speak. Oh, today too, you are complaining. Every time you are complaining. Really. You didn't even let the person finish. So we need to learn how to listen. And as we said before, when we listen, let's not just listen. And then the person finishes, have you finished? Okay, thank you. That's even insulting. But we listen so we can learn. That's important. So let's all learn to listen. Not just be quick to speak, but learn to listen. And as we listen, let's listen so that we can learn. Let's round off with two positive verses, because resentment produces so many negative things. We wanted to hear these positive things also to end. So let's first look at, we said it's a shared responsibility, right? So Philippians 2, 3, and 4. Let's hear Philippians 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll have our last one.
In Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too.
Don't look out only for your own interest. We live in America. Says look out for number one. But guess what? If both of you in the relationship are looking out for number one, who's looking out for the other person? No one. That's why maybe both of you feel lonely in the relationship. So look to his interest. Look to her interest. And everyone's interest will be taken care of. Yes, it works. And finally, from the Apostle Paul's letter to the Colossians, Colossians chapter 3, verses 5 to 10. We'll just read all the positive things. It says, there are a few things we're to, get rid of. And then we'll look at the positive things.
Colossians chapter 3, verses 5 to 10. So put to death the sinful earthly things lurking within you.
Lurking within you.
Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, for a greedy person is an idolater, worshipping the things of this world. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. You used to do these things when your life was still part of this world. And now is the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. Don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. Amen.
Amen. My friends, if you went to a therapist almost to talk about resentment, almost certainly they will talk about replacing all those negative emotions and feelings with some positive ones. We've read about put to death. But you and I know that sometimes these things can be so intense in us, we do need help. And yes, everyone sometimes needs help. You can't do it by yourself. Maybe you've tried. Why is it still there? That means you need extra help. And yes, that help can be a professional. We also want to commend to you supernatural help. We can ask God for wisdom. We can ask that His Spirit will strengthen us to be able to put to death the things that are not right. And then to have Him help us to develop those right actions, behaviors, yes, and they work all the way back to our thoughts and desires, which lead us to make the decision from which those negative emotions follow. So having heard all of this, we want to encourage everyone. Don't live with resentment. You may be slowly killing yourself, even though you may be walking alive. There is hope for you, for your relationship and relationships. May that be our portion, everyone. Thank you all very much for listening to us. Over to you, Dr. Jacob Sabi.
Thank you so much, Uncle Richard. Thank you. What a powerful presentation. And thank you to our listeners all over the world enjoying this piece of teaching. I quickly want to mention that some of you may have reached out to me to mention that there was some noise here and there. I believe that someone was on the phone line. I didn't pay attention. So forgive me, but I think we resolved that. Quickly, we go to our question lines. Traditionally, what we do is that if you want to ask a question and you are on the conference line, you are welcome to unmute yourself. You can ask the question directly, and Mr. and Mrs. Crab will be kind enough to respond to that. If you're on YouTube, you can also put the question in the link, and then we will read that on your behalf. Otherwise, if you also want to send it by text message, why not? You can send it through country code +1 area code 571 337 9185, and then we will gladly read the question on your behalf, and Mr. and Mrs. Crab will respond accordingly. So let's dive into some of the questions that came in, and Mr. and Mrs. Crab, we start with this, and it says that how do you deal with silent treatment and resentment born out of a result of a spouse who has anxiety, and yet the spouse want doesn't want to resolve the issues with a third party or a counselor, and the reason being that counseling tends to favor women. How do you handle the, and this has gone on for the last 6 years? Thank you.
Well, the question to ask the person is, do they want it to go on? Because you can't live with silent treatment, so what do they want? If they are interested in the relationship, they must be willing to work on it somehow. I mean, if a relationship is not for one person, so who would they want to talk to? They don't want to go to a counselor because they think it's biased towards women. So why don't they choose? That's one way, but no one, I mean, if they are unwilling to talk, that's terrible, because they want the death of the relationship. Maybe they need to know that. That's part of being honest with them, because you don't want to talk to somebody else. I mean, they're not going to talk with a counselor because counselors are biased towards women, which is totally untrue, then who do they want to talk to? Because if they don't want to talk to a third party and the issues are there, it's only going to get worse. So the question to ask them is, are they really interested in the relationship?
Sometimes when the people go to the counselor, they have in their mind what they think the counselor should do
And say,
to them. If it's a woman, she feels that they should talk to the husband. So if she feels they are not talking to the husband the way she wants it done, then the counselor is biased towards the husband, or the other feel that counselor is biased towards the wife. Everybody thinks in their own way.
We've had people tell us that.
If you need help, you truly know that you need help, open your heart and listen to what the person is saying, what the therapist is saying. Sometimes they even give you homework and they don't even do it because they don't even think. So why are you there? Do you need help? If you open your heart and listen to what the person is saying, and at least put it into practice, what they're telling you, you will see a big change. And we have seen people who come and start fighting with us and telling us all kinds of things, and then probably they go back and think through what we said, and then they come and say, you know what, you were right.
Well, many times they don't tell us we're right, they just begin to do it.
So things turn around. If you will be humble enough to listen and take it to heart, and don't think that you are right and your partner is wrong. Could it be that I am also making a mistake? So listen and work with whoever you're talking with, if it's the elders, if it's a therapist, if it's a counselor. Think through what other people are also saying, and don't be feeling too right in your way. It takes two to quarrel. It takes two to tango. So if you think that you are the right one and your partner is totally wrong, you are also wrong. So if you can think through whatever anybody is saying, it will work for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Now let's go straight into other questions that came in, and this one is coming from New York. And it says, Mr. and Mrs. Club, can you share a specific moment when you first realized resentment had taken root in your own marriage? What did that realization feel like?
We, all right. In one particular instance, I would say very early in our marriage. It's very interesting. As my wife was answering the last question. I actually had a flashback to something that we went through very early in our marriage. We married as great friends, but not too long after we got married, you know, I think both of us began to sense there's some unhappiness. Something was missing. We weren't, feeling that uh, joyful, happy with each other. Something wasn't right. But I couldn't put my finger on it. She couldn't put her finger on, couldn't say. But um, I'll touch to how we were able to resolve it. And I just wondered, well, actually, let me say, I was once talking with two other men, who also married. One not married long and one who'd been married longer than the other two of us. And at some point, we all seemed to be talking about the same thing, that our wives were sometimes saying, they're not happy, we're not making them happy. And so we wondered, what are we doing? And then, to this day, I don't know who asked that question, but I still remember the question so well because it set me thinking. One of us said, wait, how come? This guy had married 6 months, his wife was saying the same thing. We had actually been teasing him that he should still be on honeymoon, and he didn't look happy, And then I had been married for like 3 years, and then we had another person who'd been married like 5 years, and one of us just said, wait, how come all of us are saying our wives are saying the same thing? Could it be that there is something we're missing? My wife had traveled at the time, And when I saw her, that was one of the things I really wanted to ask her. For 2 weeks she wasn't there, I was thinking of all kinds of ways I could ask her, is there something I'm doing that is making you unhappy? And one of the things that came out of my discussion with the other two men, who were chatting, it wasn't even a discussion, was maybe we should find out. And in my mind, I said, okay, I'm going to listen to what she's going to say. Hence the emphasis we made earlier in our presentation of we have to learn to listen. So, when she began talking that night, I listened. I kept quiet and listened. A few times I would ask to clarify, do you mean, was this? And all of a sudden, what did you say?
I heard what happened to you. Some people are talking.
Some people are still talking on the line. Please, if you're not interested, get off the line. Because we are having people writing to us saying there's a lot of noise in the background. Please. Thank you.
So I just said and asked him, what happened to you? He said, why? Because I said, for the first time, you are actually listening to me.
For the first time. And I thought, wait a minute. We've been married 3 years. What do you mean? No, I didn't say it. I kept quiet. And I learned a lot. And yes, to the person who asked the question, that night marked a turning point in our relationship. Because I learned to listen, and on her part, she learned not to keep the war silent, but to bring out the feelings. Sometimes some of us only talk about the issues, but we don't talk about how it makes us feel. That also helps our partners to understand what we are going through and helps us to understand what they're going through. So that was a key moment. And it's been nearly 40 years after that happened. And our relationship has grown better. Because I learned to listen, she learned to speak up. That's what helped us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The takeaway from that response is learn to listen and learn to speak up. I love that. That can be a good theme for next conversation. Well, we'll talk about that. All right. So let's see the other question, and this question it's coming from Virginia. It said, "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Crab. You are always spot on. Please, what is the difference between normal frustration and the kind of resentment that becomes toxic? How do we know when we have crossed that line? Thank you."
There is no, resentment that is nice because we can't really tell, or it's the person. In fact, sometimes the person can't even tell. That's why sometimes people become violent, and they themselves are shocked. They didn't realize they had that in them, but it's been building over time. And that's why we caption the whole thing the silent war. Because it's there. The rage, the feeling of helplessness. And suddenly they are in a position. That's why sometimes, you can have a couple, they can be there 20, 30 years, let's say, usually you hear this happening. The man falls sick, and they say, oh, his wife is being so wicked to him. No. For her, it's payback time. You ignored me when you were strong. You were always out with the guys. Oh, now it's my turn to be out with the girls. You spent all your time with your relatives. Now let your relatives come and look after you. We're not saying that's what you should do, but we're telling you that's when now the silent war becomes a full-blown war. When the person who was in the position of power now becomes powerless, now having less power. Sometimes it's financial. If he bullied or she bullied with her money, now he's making money. Guess what he's going to do when she's not making that much money. You see. But friends, it ought not to be so. It ought not to be so. And that's why we need to deal with resentment quickly. And we went through many minutes explaining the different things that happen. So many, and I'm sure there's some we didn't even mention. And the consequences, And a key part, when you read up on resentment, one word that keeps coming up is not just anger, it's rage. Rage is anger that is just waiting to explode. It's just waiting for an outlet. So sometimes the outlet might be a stream of language, and we read it from the Bible, dirty language. Colossians chapter 3, that you didn't even believe was in you. And it just comes, and you can't stop it, because it's a war. That's why we said, declare the ceasefire now, before the explosion starts. Because when the explosion, there's no explosion that doesn't cause damage. And that damage is external as well as internal. That's what we shouldn't let happen. So it's difficult to say when the resentment will be, people are using toxic a lot. It's become a fashionable word. Toxic relationship, toxic marriage, toxic friendship, everything toxic. Even our food is toxic, But I'm not making light of it. What I mean to say is, let's not throw words around. I don't know what toxic resentment is. But what I know is that any resentment needs to be dealt with quickly. The earlier it's dealt with, the better. For the person who's feeling it, and also for the person who could be on the receiving end of the result of that resentment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Uncle Richard. Another question here, and this is also coming from Virginia, and it says that do you believe? Let me see. It said, do you believe resentment is more about what our spouses does or about what we expected them to be? How much of this is really about our own unmet expectations?
We can't measure for anybody. The importance of an unmet expectation or whatever it is resides in the person. Because if I didn't have any expectation for my spouse in marriage, whatever she does might be great. And maybe what I had, she's missing, so it's great. So if I use my measure as your measure, it's not going to help. And let me clarify. What we mean is this. It's risky, or no, it's unhelpful to be thinking, oh, this one is more important than the other. That's the danger we bring upon ourselves, thinking, oh, the unmet expectation that I had is a more important one than maybe what he's expressing, if you're a woman, or vice versa. So let's not kind of make one is more important than the other. It can be an unmet expectation. It can be, as we said, if you think of some of the things that bring these things about, unresolved conflicts. It can be that you feel taken for granted. Which of them would you say is more important? That's the person who decides. Lack of attention. Some people need more attention than others. Do we therefore say, oh, this person is an attention seeker? They may not be an attention seeker. They need it. We've discussed love languages. They need that time. If they want to hear good words, they need it. That's part of them. You can't simply say, oh, this one is not important. What are words? Or if they weren't important, they wouldn't form part of their lives. So let's not apportion importance. One of the principles Vivian and I live by is that if one of us brings up something the other person considers important, so long as it's coming from my spouse, I have to treat it as important, and I do. If it comes from her, if it comes from me, she treats it as important. There's nothing like, this one is not serious. Oh, this one, let's forget it. No. Because the person has brought it up, we will together work on it so that it's no longer a problem between us. Because if one of us has it as a problem, it definitely will affect the other person.
And when you talk about unmet expectations, sometimes the real problem is that you have not talked about those expectations to your partner.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what your expectations are. So how do they work with that? You have to voice it out. Whatever you are expecting, what you expect in the marriage, in any relationship, you have to say it. Talk about it. Then the person knows. If the person doesn't know, they might be making mistakes all the time. They don't even know that they're making mistakes. So voice it out. What are your expectations? Talk about it. Let the other person know, and then you can work together.
And another thought comes to mind. For those who are not married, don't only talk about it. Agree before you get married. This is what we will do. Don't assume that when you get married, or no, don't assume that because you mentioned it, that's what the prophet Amos said. Two work together because we agree. So let's make sure. Don't just say, oh, I mentioned that I like breakfast in bed. Well, that's your life. Is that an agreement that your spouse will bring you breakfast in bed? No. That's your expectation, but was it agreed? So let's not just say these things, let's make sure we are agreed. And then we can work on them also together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, another one here, and it says, if a spouse open up about an issue with another person and how that person treated him or her, you find out that the spouse is acting towards you the same way he or she had acted that caused him or her to be treated that way. How do you handle this situation without letting the other person think you are throwing back to their face what he or she confided in you?
That's when you need help. That is why you need to get a third person to come in, a counselor, a therapist, an elder. You see, sometimes we think the whole world is against us because this person has done me wrong, this person has done me wrong, this person has done me wrong. Now, if you get the help of someone, you might bring your mind to could it be that this is this and this that you do. That is why you are getting the reactions you are getting. When it makes you think that way, then you yourself will get but we tend to, we want people to agree with us. So when we told the person, this person did this against me, if the person tries to let you see that maybe the way you talk, maybe the way you handle things, that is why you're getting the reaction. We are not. Because you begin to, oh, you are also against me. That's why you need help with a third person who is listening to both of you and can bring things out so the person will understand. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to, well, you are also the same. But meanwhile, he's making the same mistake. Or she is making the same mistake. So you need help. So that someone else who probably doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about both of you, when you tell the person and they bring it out, it might let your partner think through and see that maybe they're saying something right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So we still have a lot of questions here. And the next question says here, let's see here. Why do small things uh, like dirty dishes, forgotten errands, seem to fuel more resentment rather than bigger issues? What really happening beneath the surface? I'm not sure if the question is clear, but let me repeat that. Maybe you understood it better. All right. So, all right. So, why do small things like dirty dishes, forgotten errands, seem to fuel more resentment than bigger issues? What's really happening beneath the surface?
There's nothing like a bigger issue or a small issue. It depends on the individual. Maybe to you, dirty dishes is not a big deal, but to your partner, dirty dishes is a big deal. So that is the problem because you think some things are trivial, some things are very small. They are not small, they're huge, forgotten errands. When you think that, if you say, I should buy milk, and I forgot to buy the milk, what's the big deal in this? But I asked you to buy milk 3 weeks ago, you did not. Then something else was short, and I told you, and you forgot. And so they are all, you think they are all trivial, but it's very, very crucial. At the point that we need the thing and it's not there, it causes many other problems. But you don't see it that way. So you think it is very small. So that is where the problem starts. When we begin to think that some things are small, they are not necessary. That's the very thing that is huge for your partner. That is why we have a problem. If we can think of it, there's nothing small. If it upsets your partner, okay. What do we do about it? Stop thinking of some things as little and some things as huge. Which ones are huge? Maybe what you think is huge is really matters to your partner too. There's nothing like too small or too big. So let's tackle each and every problem properly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. There's another question here, and it goes like, what do you do if you find yourself dealing with a spouse who sees him or herself as always right and resent you for everything you do or say? Counselors counselors try to help, but the partner sees themselves as perfect that they had to stop going for counseling and always ask the other partner to apologize for the littlest thing they do at all times. This partner wants to be worshipped and always feel they are being disrespected if you are not at their back on their back on their back and call out and not to do as they always wanted. This made this made the other partner feel like they had to walk on eggshell and collide with their crawl into their corner. Cheating and cheating is it Chatting and insult becomes a habit, and nothing stops the controlling partner from having their way. At the end, resentment has taken over the relationship, and the environment has become toxic. So it's a long question, but I believe you got it.
You see, if you have been to, we've had some experiences like that when the person, the people are talking to, they've been to about three, four counselors already. We let them know maybe we won't be able to help you either because you haven't listened to what all those other counselors have told you. It's not that they were bad. You have made up your mind that something must go your way. So if it's not going your way, then you change counselors. And it's interesting that when couples come to us, the person who is complaining that my wife, if the counselor doesn't say the things that she likes, then you change the counselor. Probably they are rather the problem. So it is the two people. If the person thinks they are always right, well, you need to pray for the person, for God to open their eyes. People think that way. In fact, we've had a situation where one lady, I was talking to the lady, I spoke to the husband first, and the husband said, my wife never apologizes. I am the one who always apologizes, and everything, she will not even say sorry. So when I was talking to the wife, I said, my husband said you never apologize for anything. She said, because I'm always right. And I said, that's interesting. There is no human being that is always right. So long as we are sons of Adam and daughters of Eve, we all make mistakes. So can you begin to think that later? Sometimes, maybe I also make a mistake. If you think you are always right, I can't help you because we won't get anywhere. You are a human being and born in sin, and you do make mistakes. So until you begin to think that maybe I also make mistakes, we won't get far. actually, when she started thinking that way, things changed. Because there are some people who think they are always right. That is the problem. Anybody who thinks they are always right, you are the problem. So pray for your partner that God will open their eyes so they will see that maybe I'm also wrong sometimes. Until we get there, you are not going to be right. Thank you.
I
Awesome.
just want to say one sentence. There is no perfect human being. That's all. So anybody who thinks they're perfect, maybe you shouldn't even be on this earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now let's go to Africa. Now let's begin from Ghana. And it says, how does scorekeeping, that is, I did this, but you didn't do that, pose a poisons a marriage? When did you wait? It said, how does scorekeeping, into bracket, I did this, but you didn't do that, poisons a marriage? When did you realize you were keeping score against each other? I don't know if it's a direct question to you in your experience, Mr. and Mrs. Crab, because I think the follow-up question the person asked changed the narrative for me. So let's keep the first part of the question, which is, how does scorekeeping, I did this and you did that, poisons marriage?
You have answered the question,
Yeah.
your own question.
You keep going to
Score
marriage.
keeping poisons the marriage.
Well, they
You
want to
see-
know how it poisons marriage.
If you are keeping scores, you will not get anywhere. You see what we read in Philippians, he says that don't look out for your own interest alone, look out for the interest of the other person. If you are keeping scores, you will not get anywhere. And you are doing things out of love. He says, don't do things out of selfish ambition or vain pride. And so if you are looking, I have done this, and you too, you should do this, we will not get anywhere. Begin to do things in spite of. Some people say, I've done my 50%, he too should do his 50%. There's nothing like 50-50. We are all putting in our 100%. When you read in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 to 33, that thing tells us what husbands should do and what wives should do. It doesn't say that love your wife if she respects you or if he loves you. When we begin to do our part and not thinking of what they are doing, that is when the changes come. But when we are keeping scores, I've done A, so he too should do A, and then I will do B, you will not get anywhere. Just do your part and pray that God will change the other person. Then we can't change anybody, but God changes people. When you are doing your part, God will change the other person. He will deal with the other person. So let's not keep scores. It doesn't help. It won't go anywhere. It will just mess up the marriage. You are just going down, down, down the hole. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Again, for those of you online, once again, you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask the question directly if you so wish. If you're on YouTube, you are welcome to put your question there, and we'll read that on your behalf as well. And for the rest of you, you can reach out directly. Country code +1, area code 571-337-9185, and we'll gladly do that for you. So since we are in Africa, let's continue in West Africa. This is coming from Sierra Leone, and it says that Well, it's directly to Mrs. Crab. So, Mrs. Crab, what you say, Mrs. Crab? Why is it sometimes easier to vent to a friend about your husband than to tell him directly? What are we really afraid of?
I don't know what you are afraid of, but we are not being realistic. That is the true thing. We are not being realistic. So instead of telling the person face to face, we are seeking approval from our friends. So we want, self pity. You want people to pity you and, oh, you are suffering, and oh, what a pity. And we seem to enjoy that. So you are telling your friend, you are telling other people, and somehow you feel good, but it doesn't last long because you're going back home and you go through the whole thing. Why don't you talk to the person who you think is harming you or is doing the things that are hurting you? Why don't, and when you are talking to a friend, do you really want solutions or you just want sympathy? Sometimes we just want sympathy. So you're telling other people to see how pitiful you are, and then you feel okay. It is not okay. Instead of talking to other people about whatever is happening, why don't you address it yourself? Why don't you tell your husband or your wife about what is happening? And if you think that they won't listen, then you have to let them know that we need to talk to someone, because I don't think you are listening to me, or I don't think you are understanding what I'm saying. Can we see someone else and talk to them? Let's get a third person so that we will both bring out whatever is happening so that we will have help. We need help. That's what you need to do. So let's stop talking to other people and not to the person who you think is causing the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Crab. And another question again from Sierra Leone says that uh, it says, what role does pride play in our inability to express hurt feelings? How do we get past the fear of being vulnerable, especially if your spouse have emotionally abused you many times, and even the words that comes out of their mouth is enough to tear you into pieces? How do you go past the fear of being vulnerable?
When you start with pride, it will not get anywhere because then you are not being truthful to yourself. But if you think that a person says things to hurt you, again, that's why we are saying that you need help. You need a third person to bounce it to, that both of you will talk to, so that that person can help you, can help your spouse. There are times that people come to us as they talk. We help them. One lady, we just told her that even before us, the way you were talking to your husband, it doesn't show any respect to him at all. And sometimes what we do is we talk to both people and then we talk to them separately so they will understand. So that sometimes the man doesn't feel we are disgracing him before his wife, or the wife doesn't think we are disgracing her before the husband. But we let them know that, even the way you talk to your wife right in front of us, it doesn't show any respect to your wife. It doesn't show you even value what she says. Or if it's a woman, the way you talk to your husband whilst we were together, it doesn't show any respect to him. Then they'll begin to think about the whole thing. Then you see that you need help. And talk to your spouse so that you can get that help. So somebody else bounce it by someone else so they can help you.
Friends, you've heard us say several times, um, get a third party to help you. We're not saying this lightly. And yes, we do understand people who say, I don't want my business out there. Your business is not going out there. Counselors, therapists are trained not to spread what you tell them. No. Yes, you might be afraid or apprehensive, whatever you might think of. No, I don't want the elders in the church to know. I don't want the pastor to know. So get a third person, just like Vivian said, who may not know the two of you. So you can both be more comfortable. Let me ask this question. Is it wiser to continue in the relationship that is unhelpful, that is making one or both of you miserable? Who marries to be miserable? Who enters into a love relationship to be miserable or to be mistreated or to build up all these negative emotions resentment brings up? What is wiser? You see, so we're not just saying it because we counsel. No, because it's the right thing to do. Because it's the healthier thing to do. Because it's the wiser thing to do. And because sometimes it's the life-saving thing to do. Don't live with what is harming you or harming your relationship. No, that's not what God made you to be. And no, that's not your cross. It is not your lot in life. Do not accept that it is an okay way to live. It is not. If it were an okay way to live, then it would not disturb you. But my friends, especially my male friends, my brothers, sometimes it's not pride. Sometimes it's simply thinking we are adults, we can handle it. But you are not handling it. If you were handling it, your wife will not be upset. I'm using the nicer word. You see, if you were capable of doing it, it wouldn't be happening. So why are you living with it? It's not wise. We sought help, and it's been 40 years of being in a happier, enjoyable relationship. That's why we can talk about that. And it's not just because of us. It's because we have seen it transforming people's lives. And that's why we're saying it with such passion. Get help. If you couldn't, I'm going to use a very simple example. If you couldn't urinate, would you sit with the urine inside of your body? When people talk about toxic, now that's a toxic one. You will die. So why should we keep that silent war within us and allow it to kill us slowly? It doesn't help. So yes, maybe it's you. And sometimes we the guys, we suffer even more silently than the women. So get help for yourself and for your relationship. It might save your life. And I mean it with all my heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Uncle Richard. Thank you to our listeners for sending in questions. The questions are just pouring in. So let's see if we have some here that we can see if we can get the response from Mr. and Mrs. Crab. And this one says that let's see here. He said, "Is there a difference between how men and women expresses or suppresses resentment in marriage? What have you observed in your 40 years of marriage?
We won't talk about ourselves. We will talk about our experience in counseling, from what we know ourselves in our practice, from what we've learned from other counselors as well, from our training. I wouldn't make a dichotomy between men and women. We all suffer. But what we can say is that our upbringing can condition our response to resentment. Men generally, the world over, are taught to be strong, to keep their emotions inside, right? Be tough, be strong. You are a man. Face it. So things aren't going well with the spouse, or maybe even the person with whom he's in a relationship, and he's being told to be tough, to be strong, and he's suffering, and it's killing him. That's not wise. You see, for women, they're more, I wouldn't even say they're more natural in talking out, because many women keep quiet and suffer silently. And the rage builds up every day. And I remember reading about Billy Graham's wife, both of them late now, and she was asked, about this same issue, resentment, because he was always on stage and she wasn't seen, and some of you might know that she had given her life to Christ many years before, the child of missionary parents in China and all of that, very famous family she came from also, you see. So when she was asked, do you sometimes, feel any...
No, sorry, she was asked if she ever thought of divorce.
Divorce. Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, not divorce, but murder.
When she said that, some people laughed, some people gasped. Mrs. Billy Graham? Ruth Graham? She said, yeah, because these thoughts are real. And yes, she did have resentment sometimes that Billy was the only one who was known, and she was left home caring for the children. But she did it happily, you see. But yes, those thoughts were there. How come? How come? Yes. But that's why we say, a woman can find somebody else to talk to, because socially, women tend to talk among themselves much better. But men, tough it up, keep it in, and my wife just reminded me this afternoon, that's why more men die of high blood pressure than women, because they find an outlet. I'll give you another example we've observed. When you go to a funeral, who's doing the dancing most of the time? It's the women. For those of you from West Africa, for example, funerals are characterized by a lot of singing and dancing. I've seen that down south also. So, who's doing it usually? It's the women. The weeping, the wailing, and after the after the burial, the dancing. They're the ones preparing the meals too. What are the men doing? They keep quiet and they drink. By the time the funeral is over, the woman has talked it out, she's cried out, and she's ready to restart life. And for the man, close to the person, the bereaved man, what's happened? Everything is internalized. And it just eats us up. So we're socialized, acculturated men not to express our feelings in that way, our emotions in that way. We express our feelings when we're watching soccer or, some other, game, but not in our relationships, person to person. And that's why sometimes what comes out, here it comes again, is anger for the man. Anger for the man against the woman. Why? Because resentment has built into rage. And rage has to find an outlet or it will eat up, burn up the person in whom it is. That's why it finds out there. If it's not on the wife, you very often find it on the children. or in somebody else close to them. So those are some of the differences that you will find. But in the main, men are taught not to express their deep-seated feelings. It's many cultures have it. It's not an African versus European thing. Men in America is the same thing. Be tough. Take it on your chin. Hey, that's why you are a man. Grow up. So, but we all need to unlearn those things. And in the same way that a woman might talk to 3, 4 people, she could also learn to find one trusted person with whom she can share. Instead of 3, 4 people, and she can't control what those 3 other people do. And one could have been enough. So we all need to learn and unlearn some of the things so that there is room for us to improve our relationships. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this one is coming from Nigeria, and it's also directed directly to you, Mr. Crab. And it says that, oh no, sorry, Mrs. Crab. It said, and it said, Mrs. Crab, have you ever withheld affection or intimacy as a way to express anger to Mr. Crab in your 40 years of marriage?
So, that can happen at any time. When you are angry with someone, you don't want even to get close to the person. So, yes, it used to happen a lot. But I have learned to talk about what is happening rather than keep it. You see, in those days, I used to assume that if I'm angry, if I'm not talking, you should know that I'm angry.
And what did I say about that?
But my husband has taught me, he said, I'm not Jesus. So I don't know what is happening in you. So if you tell me what is happening, then I can work with it. And he also told me he works very well with information. So if I don't say what is happening, he doesn't know. So sometimes I'm angry, but the guy doesn't know that he has done anything wrong. So I am the one suffering. And I think I'm punishing him. He doesn't know what he has done. So sometimes he doesn't know why he's so moody or, it doesn't help.
And the conditioned response is nothing.
But it doesn't help. So I learned to talk. So I don't keep things in me anymore. If it happens, I will definitely talk about it. Give me a few hours and I'll bring it up. And I've made sure about that. So it's not a problem to me anymore. Learn to talk. Let your spouse know what is happening. Don't just be moody and,
You should know.
squeezing your face, assuming he doesn't know.
Sometimes you doesn't know too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't it interesting? Because in most cases, the man doesn't even want to know, so the life goes on. But in this case, Mr. Graham, you want to know.
And sometimes it's not that the men don't want to know. They are afraid that if I open
the door for her, she's going to tell me so much.
Tell me things I don't want to hear. So they are trying to run away from the whole thing. That's why they still need to hear.
I'm sure many people listening have heard the expression, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, sometimes what you don't know is already hurting you. You only don't know. That is because of what you don't know. So if you know, then you can deal with it. So don't just stick to that. What you don't know can't hurt you. It's already hurting you, maybe. But you don't even know it because of what you don't know. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we are about to wrap up, but more questions come here. So let's see if we can get a few of them in before we wrap up. And they say, how do you apologize for years of unspoken resentment where does someone even begin?
Once you realize that there is a problem, just speak up. Open your mouth and say, I am sorry. It doesn't matter if you think this thing has happened for 20 years, if it has happened for 30 years, it doesn't matter.
You don't turn it on the person, and you are now telling me
no,
you're going to make things worse.
No. If you can come out and say it, at any time, things can be resolved. So the first thing is for you to realize that, oh, I've also been wrong. I've also done some things that were not right. And begin to apologize to each other. The pride comes in when we feel, oh, if I apologize, it means that I'm wrong. You are wrong anyway. So learn to apologize. It doesn't matter how long it has been. Take a step today. Even if you think this thing has happened for so long, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, just say it. There will be a turnaround at any time when you realize. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then this question says that, is there a point of no return with resentment, or can any marriage come back from it? What does the turning point even looks like?
There's not a point of no return. There can always be a point of return. The only time when it will be of no return is that you've hurt yourself so much that the things have affected you. Your whole human body is already sick. You've got all kinds of things. Your high blood pressure, your everything is gone wrong. And it has, for some people, it affects so many things. It affected the kidney and everything. At that point, doctors will try, but you are dying. So maybe that will be the point of no return. The harm has already been done. But anytime that you realize that there's a problem and you begin to work at it, things turn around. Things will turn around at any point. There's nothing like, oh, I've done it to my soul. There's no point apologizing now. People even do that when you are witnessing to people. They tell you, I've done so much, but I don't think God will forgive me. Who says God will not forgive you? It doesn't matter how long or what kinds or they tell you, you don't know what I have done. I don't know, but God knows, and God still forgives anybody who comes to Him. Even if you have done wrong your whole life, when you come to Him today, He will forgive you. So there's nothing like it's too late. It's not too late. You can turn things around, apologize to each other, and work with each other. What can I do to make things change? How do we do it so that we will get better? You can do it at any time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And this one says that I live in New Jersey, and my wife actually helped me to secure my green card and ultimately becoming a citizen. Now, anytime we have any form of argument, which I believe happens in most marriages, my wife will always remind me, had it not been her, I wouldn't have had a green card. And each time she says that, it affects my persona. And sometimes I feel like, you know what, can I pay you off and walk away from this marriage? Now, listening to you today, Mrs. Crab has made it clear that we can work things out no matter how difficult it appears. Maybe it is a form of communication. So please, can you at this point share some tidbits in my situation? How should I confront this situation so that it ends once and for all? Thank you.
Okay, one of the things which is that had it been Had it not been for her, you wouldn't have gotten it. It's true. Yes, you helped me. You helped me to get my green card and my citizen. Thank you so much for it. Maybe I haven't thanked you enough. Is there any way that, do you think that I haven't appreciated what you did for me? Maybe I'm doing something to make you feel that way. So let me know. Is there anything that makes you feel that I am ungrateful? I'm very, very grateful to you for what you have done for me. Now, what have I done? What is happening? What am I doing that is upsetting you, which makes you go back there? Let's address the situation. Whatever it is, address the situation.
Let me know.
Let me know what it is so that we deal with it. That's how you go about it. The fact is there. Yes, you helped me. I am very grateful. Maybe I haven't told you I am grateful for what you have done. So let me know that one too. If you think I haven't been grateful enough, so that what else do you think I can do to make me feel that I am truly grateful to you? You can start from there.
That's good. That's good. My name is Richard Crab and I endorse that message.
Well, because you endorse, this question says that if you could go back and tell your newlywed selves one thing about preventing resentment. I know this is 40 years of marriage. What will it be if you should go back to tell your newlywed self one thing about preventing resentment?
I don't know if newlyweds, you don't really know what you are going in.
But to prepare so that it doesn't happen.
Let's talk about everything. Don't keep things in yourself. I think that the main thing that brings this problem is when we keep quiet, when we don't talk about issues, when we don't bring it out. Then the resentment will build up. But let's tell each other, let's not keep things inside. Whatever the issue is, let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Voice it out. What is troubling you so that we can deal with it. That's the only way that we will not build resentment. And then let's listen to each other.
Yeah, right.
When, we are not just talking, we are listening, because when you listen, you think about what the person is saying. So you don't just hear and throw it away. Let's not keep it in, let's talk about it. Let's also listen to each other so that it doesn't come.
When we listen, let's learn from what we listen and let's work towards always improving the relationship. Always be looking for ways to improve the relationship. Always. You will be the major beneficiaries of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uncle Richard. And folks, this probably will be our last but one question. And so we appreciate all the contributions and the stuff that has come in. And so the question here is, how do you it says, well, thank you for this wonderful thought. Listening carefully, I think I've overheard Mrs. Crab talk many times about speak up, forgive each other. But how do you speak up when your spouse have already told you that when A or B or C happens in my relationship, be it courting or marriage, I am done with it. And then you mistakenly committed the very things that you were not supposed to. How do you express it in order for you to keep the marriage going? Or do you say it and ruins it? What will be your advice from experiential standpoint? I don't know if they have that experience, but
we haven't had that. We didn't have, if you do to come out kind of, but the first thing is to I mean, the longer you keep it, the worse it can become. And if you think it might be explosive and your spouse might not handle it well, maybe you need to get help, or you need to have the assistance of someone to be able to work with both of you on it. I mean, we don't want to give hypothetical answers, but some of the actions will depend on what it is, But it's important to the earlier you bring out the issue, the better it is for both of you to be able to work on it. And sometimes you will, if it's as serious as something that will cause the person to leave the marriage or a relationship before marriage, and you treasure that relationship, then you will get some help with it, so that it's not just, oh, here is the information, here is how terrible I've behaved, or what I've done, which for you is a deal breaker, but I need us to work on this. I need help, and I need, I would like you to ask for the forgiveness also. It's not, we've heard people say, I've apologized. Why is he not forgiving me? The apostle. It's the forgiver who decides. You can't demand forgiveness. I mean, you can demand, but you're more likely not to get it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Crab. And our last question for the night, it reads here. Now, looking at all that we have discussed, what one word will you use to describe what one word will you use to describe I think the message, the writing is not that, but what I believe the individual is trying to say is that what one word of advice will you give to newly wed married couples about resentment and living togetherness?
Watch out. The earlier you deal with anything, the better for your relationship. Anything ahead, a wound that is left to fester will only go deeper and hurt even more and become more difficult to heal over time. But the earlier any hurt, any misplaced word, any wrong action or behavior is surfaced, acknowledged, and dealt with, the healthier your relationship would be. Think about our relationships we're human beings. Anything wrong we do can affect the body itself. So, let's say if you eat a bad food, it's going to make you sick. So, assuming you take something that's not good for you, what do? You try to get it out of your system as quickly as possible. Same with our relationships. The quicker we deal with it, the better. That's why in Ephesians 4:26 to 27 is don't, be angry but do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. It means deal with it as quickly as possible. And don't give the devil a foothold. The longer you keep it, the more easier it is to give the devil a foothold. And a foothold is where somebody stands to capture more of your territory. That's not what any one of us wants. Thank you. And thank you again for giving us your time, and we're grateful. As we've said, let's make our relationships healthier. The earlier we seek help, the better. But we start by letting each other know, surfacing the feelings that are eating into us and why. And sometimes we might not even know why, but our spouse might be able to help us. And if it's not happening between us, let's get help, and get help early, and get help from people who will actually help us, not people who will just talk with us. Thank you. God bless you. May He give us all healthier relationships. Thank you.
Thank you all once again, and it's indeed a pleasure having all of you. We look forward to our November series, and thank you for all your support, and have a blessed day. God bless you all. Thank you. Bye for now.
Goodbye.